everything I've done it in this beach. So second beach, some other people can say it's one of the dangerous beaches, but for me, this was my background. It's only 500 meters from my home to here. So I grew up in this place.
Born during apartheid to parents who straddled both the ancient cultural traditions of Western Pondoland and the increasingly urbanized world, Nkobile understands both worlds.
The ocean and humans, they've got a connection, because at the end of the day, this water, it's life, and also there's some beliefs that people, when they need to cleanse themselves and also enjoy themselves and realize that actually they're connecting with nature, they utilize the ocean.
The importance of water safety has been driven home by the recent devastating floods in KwaZulu-Natal that spread to the Eastern Cape, ravaging coastal communities, causing death, destroying rural infrastructure and damaging hundreds of homes in Port St. John's alone.
Local authorities are so concerned about looking after themselves and their roles that they don't really have that degree of consideration for the youths. You don't see any incentive coming down from those who play the role that they should be playing. So these fellows have had to go out and find people to come and teach them and then develop themselves, which is what they've done over the years, and done it with a great degree of ability.
We go to schools, we go to communities and educate people. At the end of the day, it's not something that is sustainable, because we're not getting so much money, but the little money that we have, we always bring back to the community.
Instead of playing a major role in drowning prevention, ecotourism and marine education, most of Port St. John's lifeguards have been left high and dry.
The only job that I have in Port St. John's is to be a lifeguard, but I don't get employed at home. We are this generation that we will be like, sometimes we're not operational, or it's like we've got so much anger. The reason why it's because we see politicians, they're not helping. They are literally not helping.
It's painful because I know how good some of them were at school and the potential they had. But because some had families that could not afford to take them to higher levels.
Port St. John's belongs to the OR Tambo District Municipality, where 65% of the population lives below the breadline, with up to 85% unemployment. There is a dire shortage of bulk services, particularly in the rural areas, like roads, electricity, and a waterborne sewage system. And ironically, Port St. John's is a town surrounded by water, yet with not a drop to drink, particularly for impoverished residents who have to rely on water trucks.
It's very painful, because we've got all kinds of waters. We've got rivers, small streams that flow throughout the year, but we don't have water in my village, plus minus 12, 11 months.
Since the late 1990s, the Wild Coast has been targeted for massive development by multinationals. For example, Dutch oil giant Shell was granted the right by the Department of Mineral Resources to conduct seismic blasting of the ocean bed for oil and gas over a period of 6 months, covering 300 kilometers from Port St. John's to Morgan Bay near East London. This despite the global and local outcries.
People, especially our leaders, whenever they talk about these things, they said, no, we will be creating jobs. There was not going to be any job creation, because the ship was in the ocean. No one from the local that will be getting any job there. In fact, they will be messing around what we have and then spoiling everything. These guys, they only came to rape our coast.
On the 28th of December 2021, in what has been called the most widespread civil society protest in post-apartheid South Africa, Wild Coast communities and activists worldwide scored a major but temporary victory against the oil giant when the Makhanda High Court ordered it to stop its exploration immediately.
We don't regard it as success per se, other than we were able to put it on hold because it's a temporal interdict. The real success, it's like if you are in a war, you can win a battle, but it doesn't necessarily mean you've won the war.
But rather than rocking the shell boat, government has been accused of climbing aboard.
It is concerning when you have a ruling party that is unable to respect and to see the importance of the land, of the ocean, to the livelihood and the lives of the people, but instead choose to support the so-called investors, even if that is disregarding the constitutional rights of the people.
When you look at the construction of the various companies involved in the search for oil, and you look at who the major stakeholders happen to be and their shareholders, and then you trace their origins back to where they are seated in government or in controlling bodies, then the answer is pretty clear.
For now, let's look at what is at stake for the delicate and unique marine ecosystem along the wild coast.
What a seismic survey is it's actually the use of sound to map the ocean bed. So during a seismic survey, you have ships, and towed behind these ships are what are called air guns. Lots and lots and lots, hundreds of air guns. Each of these air guns is sending a pulse of sound, very, very, very loud sound, down through the water. And this sound wave is so strong that it can actually penetrate into the seabed.
Around the seismic survey, we believe that there's limited understanding that exists in terms of how safe this process is.
Seismic surveys use sound waves to scan the ocean floor for fossil fuels. In the last 10 years, technology has made discoveries not only on species close to the shores, but in deeper waters.
And it's revealing that these deep water ecosystems are every bit as varied as the shallow ones. And we need to be able to protect a range of those. We don't even know a lot of the animals that live there. And when you're looking at animals that grow to maybe hundreds of years old, one set of damage to destroy it's going to take a long, long time to recover. Let's protect them before we destroy them.
Both the blue ecosystem and the green economy could also be impacted.
Any economic activity that is going to degrade the land, the ecosystem, the ocean, which is the source of livelihood for the people, cannot be viewed as a development. Because at the end of it all, it's about who benefits and who is going to suffer, who's going to live with the cost of that.
As a country, we derive a lot of our energy resources from importation. And this would minimize those importations because we are now all of a sudden self-sufficient. The economy will benefit immensely.
The environment should have far, far greater power, because ultimately the health of the environment is what determines the health of people, and it's what determines the health of the economy.
The impacts of extracting fossil fuels can be felt on the ground, or what's left of it, in countries once rich in resources that have been plundered for profit and reduced to poached earth by corrupt corporations.
The generation that is following is going to inherit nothing. It's a loss of the country's finest assets, and that is the goodwill and the abilities of this marvelous youth that exists out there.
Development must be envisioned by the people who live on that land. It must come, it has got to be bottom-up process.
I do have a message of hope. If we speak and talk and educate people about this is our gold, we need to look after this gold.